Greetings. I am your host, Edgar Gravestone. Welcome to Gravestone Files.
Muffled silence. Liquid envelops my nostrils and ears. Cold waves plummet my body temperature until I become one with the water. Present day. The sound of 4 different artists clashed together through the rotting floorboards of my apartment living room. The bass shaking my couch. No point in complaining though. Management doesn't really give a shit anyways. I live in a pretty rough part of town. One step outside can result in you getting robbed and at the worst even killed. Why don't I move? Well, the cost of living anywhere else is too high to even fathom. To be completely honest, I got lucky with this place. The people in my apartment complex are pretty decent, albeit all of them are pretty loud. My next door neighbor is a younger guy, mid-20s maybe. We greeted each other with a simple nod, just acknowledging each other's existence. One of those, I'm here, you're here, let's just leave it at that kind of interactions. Fine by me. I don't care to know anyone. I don't plan on sticking around much longer anyways. Tonight's the night I finally take my own life. I've been suicidal since I was a kid, and not to sound too edgy, but my first attempt was at age 9. I choked myself unconscious, face down in a bathtub full of water. I know, pretty stupid to think it would kill me. Your body will naturally try and preserve itself. Not that it even took that long. My mother had found me before my body had even had a chance to fight back. I went into counseling immediately after. It wasn't the first time though. One time during class, I was writing in my journal about how much I hated my grandfather because he would whoop me when I acted out. Now realizing he was only trying to teach me right and wrong, unlike my parents at the time. Not trying to write a diatribe. I think I'm gonna try and drown myself again, just for old time's sake. 2. 18 years ago. What the fuck are you doing? My mother yelled at me with tears in her eyes. What am I doing here? I said in confused horror. Ash, what were you doing? I was trying to kill myself in my apartment. How am I? What are you talking about, apartment? I'm taking you to a counselor first thing in the morning. You're sleeping in our room tonight. Next day. Looking down at my hands, the calluses on my right thumb and outside edge of my pointer finger were gone. The muffled sounds break my concentration. Ashley? What are you thinking about? My counselor asked, looking into my soul. I'm not sure. To be completely honest, I'm still discombobulated. Discombobulated? Where'd you learn such a big word at? Ah, right. Not something a normal 9-year-old says in everyday speech. A book I read called The Dictionary. You should check it out sometime. I laughed to myself, yet I feel as if my counselor didn't find it as funny as me. You do know you can tell me anything, right? That's why I'm here. That's why we're here. I know, I said in a forced adolescent manner. Your mother tells me that you were having weird thoughts. That you were living in an apartment? Is that right? Could you explain to me what you mean? Look, all I know is I was in my apartment trying to take my life. I choked myself until I went to sleep in the bathtub. Then I woke up to my mom pulling me out of the water. Were you still how old you are now in your nightmare? My counselor said. Funny. This feels more like a nightmare than where I was before. No, I was older. I remember seeing on the calendar on my fridge saying 27th birthday circled in a black expo marker. Is there, My attention breaks from the conversation, my head throbbing. The feeling is comparable to what I'd imagine getting hit in the temple really hard would feel like. Black tendrils overtake my vision and I drift into unconsciousness. 3. Current day. The grease stains on my shirt wear down the fabric. The smell fermenting as I bag up another $7.99 pork sandwich special. Order 1932? Thank you, come again please. Not sure which is a bigger shithole, my apartment or this so-called restaurant I work at. The fact it hasn't been condemned yet is beyond me. Yo, what if I told you that every single time I kill myself, I go back into the past? I say to my coworker. The glassy, glazed-eyed stare I got in response was enough to let me know that this was fixing to be a one-sided conversation. Yeah, I tried it the other night. Really weird shit. I woke up in a bathtub, my mom pulling me out. I was a kid again. I couldn't help but have this reoccurring thought. What if I tried to kill myself in other ways I've tried in the past? Would I wake up there maybe? Maybe you should try, my coworker said in the deadest of monotone. Realizing that he doesn't believe me was a perfect ploy. I felt like I could tell this dude anything, like a personal calendar. I could tell him the most messed up shit and he wouldn't even know I was being serious. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll put a gun in my mouth. I tried when I was a kid. Loaded the gun, pulled the trigger, gun jammed with a mocking click. Yeah, you get back to me on that, Ash. Order 1933? 4. Getting a gun wasn't the easiest task. I tried buying one from a local pawn shop and they took one look at my barcoded wrists and told me I had to be a member of some bullshit club. They knew what I was trying to use it for. I had the opportunity to meet with a guy about potentially buying an illegal gun. Best part about it, the seller doesn't give a fuck what you use them for. All they care about is the dirty money. He was some guy working at a pizza restaurant. I also buy my cocaine from him. Guess it's hard to dodge the feds without a little bit of clean money to blend your soiled money with. Didn't care to get his name either. We both knew the score. Nothing worse than a dealer that wants to chat your ear off after a purchase, when all you could think about is getting home and getting high. Hate dealers that want to be your friend.
You gotta flip the safety off twice and cock the chamber once. Otherwise, the gun will jam. It's cheap for a reason.
Well, what I'm using the thing for, it doesn't have to be perfect. I say after railing a freshly chopped line.
Whatever, man. You need anything else?
Could you front me a ball, maybe? I get paid next week and all I can really afford now is the gun.
You know, you really are a piece of work. Next week? Or it's your ass,
He said, tossing me a nice baggie. Next week. Gotcha. 5. Is there a symphony in hell? I found myself repeating this line in my mind for a while now. Anyways, sitting on my mattress loading up a .45 hollow point, I find myself questioning whether or not I should do this. Maybe it was a dream? No fucking way. That was way too real, man. Not like I have much to lose anyways. If I do die, the one person that would give a shit about it would be my dealer. I mean, I do owe him $400. The steel frame of the gun reminds me of a Mad Max car. Rusted. The serial number was scratched off poorly. No way to trace it. Not that it matters. Probably shouldn't do this in my apartment. Even if I live, talk about a fucking headache of a mess. Then I'll be thrown in a hospital before I get arrested for having an illegal firearm. A short drive away took me to a forest entrance. Lots of late-day antisocial joggers come in to get their cardio in. I'm not planning on staying on the beaten path. I'll walk about a mile off the path to this nice lookout spot, the opening revealing a beautiful sunset shimmering off of the water about 40 feet below. A picture-perfect place to end it, really, I thought to myself. Looking down at the rusted pistol, I turned the safety off twice and cocked it 16 years earlier. That damn click still haunts me like a poltergeist. I look at myself deep in the mirror, my reflection, my 11-year-old self looking back at me, bringing me to this otherworldly reality. It's so hard to tell if I'm dreaming or if I had some near-death experience. Maybe I seen where my life was headed. Click. The sound of my dad's belt unbuckling echoed through the darkness. My ears twitched and perked up. I told you to go back to your room. Why can't you just listen, you stupid fucking child? My hands began to shake uncontrollably, sweat rolling down my temples. Turn the safety off twice and cock it once, I whispered to myself. My father's beer breath creeping its way towards me, his footsteps follow behind his addiction. And just what do you plan on doing with that, huh? Making me more mad? Just leave me the fuck alone, Dad. I'm not messing around. You're nothing but a scared little bitch. You don't have what it takes to kill me. 3 shots rang out like a bell letting kids out of school. Crumpled in a pool of blood lied my father. Face down, eyes trained on me. He began whispering something to me, but was quickly cut off by my foot colliding with his teeth. I put my knee on the back of his neck as I swung the heavy pistol handle into his face. The sound of bone crunching with every swing told me that I was finally getting my revenge on him for all the times he had laid his hands on me. The sounds of disgusting breathing come from what remained of his face was like a symphony. I walked over to the kitchen and pulled out the longest kitchen knife I could find. I cut both of his Achilles tendons as to cut off any chances of him getting the random adrenaline spike to try and even run. I run the knife up the back of his leg, splaying flesh apart, exposing the muscle beneath. I plunge the blade deep into his lower back, piercing his vertebrae and twisting as hard as I can. No noises anymore other than the sound of his labored breathing. The clock on the wall read 2:36 a.m. Mom will be getting home in about an hour. Gotta make the rest of this quick, I guess. The tool shed out back has a decrepit door handle with a simple lock on it. I took a large rock from the garden and swung it across the handle until it fell to the ground with a loud bang. I knew what I was in here for. My father used to make me cut firewood as a punishment for the smallest of mess-ups. Back inside my father lie motionless. I began hacking his limbs off one by one. It's not as easy as the movies make it out to be, each limb taking about 4 swings apiece. It would have been more had I had not practiced with the firewood in the past. I guess I gotta thank him for that. I started fire with some wood I had cut from a minor mistake, tossing his limbs and torso on. The smell of burning body hair was quickly replaced by what I can only describe as the smell of pork. I put his head in my book bag and waited behind the front door. The sound of keys jingling in the door were like some sick instrument of death. "Robert? Ashley? I'm home, boys," my mother said, setting her keys down in a glass bowl by the coat rack. Right down the hall from the front door was the entrance to the kitchen. The door to the left lies the living room. The shimmering of the fire was enough of a spectacle to attract my mother's attention. Ashley slowly opened the door to see what was left of her husband. I swung my little slugger bat down on top of her head. She hit the ground with a sudden thud. She lay motionless aside from a few subconscious twitches and muscle spasms. I began dragging her to the bathroom, which, by the way, incredibly difficult to drag, essentially dead weight up 10 steep steps. 3 hours later. My mother's eyes slowly opened with a look of pain and confusion across her face. Ashley, what are you doing? You know, all of this is futile. I'm just gonna wake up anyways. Everything's gonna be fine, Mother, I said back. Ashley, you're scaring me. Where's your father? Truthfully, he's downstairs in the fireplace burning. For all that he's inflicted to me and you, it's the least he deserves. My only issue, you let him destroy us. You even defended him when my teachers were asking about how I got my bruises. You doing nothing is just as bad as far as I'm concerned. Ashley, you knew what I was going through. You have to understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. You're a coward. You hated us just as much as you hated yourself. She began to struggle, not realizing that her wrists and feet were bound together. She began screaming as loud as she could. And you know what's even crazier? All this time I thought you were something more, someone to believe in. I always thought you were just doing what you could. It took me 16 years to realize that you were nothing but an abusive bitch. Yet, I feel like you truly don't deserve what's coming. Unfortunately for you, though, it has to happen. I dragged my mother by her hair over to the bathtub and started running a bath. Do you remember when I was 9 and you stopped me from killing myself? Another example of your selfishness. Had you had just let this happen, none of this would be happening to you. She began thrashing and screaming at the top of her lungs. I just kicked her in the teeth until her mouth was pouring gore. I pummeled her face until her nose looked like a caricature drawing of one. Inhaling foul, blood-soaked air, I pick her up by the hair and push her head under the water. She wiggled around like a fish out of water. Ironic. Soon, the struggling began to diminish. The bubbles stopped, and my mother went limp. All of this, and yet I still feel nothing. I still feel nothing. I cut off my mother's head and put it alongside my father's in my book bag and torched the house, a nice warm blaze to fill the cold autumn air. Third day.
Good evening, people of Drove. I'm your anchor, Dale Cunnin, with Drove Daily News. We interrupt your regular scheduled programming with the breaking news on the 2017 house fire on the outskirts of town that shook a whole neighborhood. Until now, it was believed that the fire was some sort of arson attack, and it was in a way. 27-year-old Ashley Flanagan was arrested after being found on a hiking trail, somehow surviving a traumatic self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. He was rushed to the hospital and subsequently arrested after a month of recovery. His car was discovered in the nearby parking lot. His book bag, containing the severed heads of two people he later admitted were his parents. In custody, Ashley admitted to brutally murdering his mother and father and removing their heads and mummifying them to keep as, quote, reminders, end quote. After killing his parents, he torched his own house with gasoline and fled into the city, wandering until he was picked up by police and taken to a foster home. The officer that picked him up is also under investigation for other unrelated charges of planting evidence. Ashley's motives are still unknown, explaining his reasoning in more detail in front of a jury. Not for sympathy, he says, but for the whole world to hear. It is unsure where Ashley Flanagan's fate lies at this point. All we know is Tune in on the 19th of October to find out. This has been Dale Cunnin with DDN. Good night.